I used to be very fearful of any kind of judgment based off of the decisions that I was making because sometimes the most difficult decisions require you to make the most unpopular decisions. And sometimes making those kinds of unpopular decisions can induce a fear in other people. And sometimes when people fear you, they do one of two things. They either plot on you or they just simply back away from the situation. Usually that's what happens. It's not always the case, but that's what usually happens. And I think that there's supposed to be a healthy amount of fear that a man is supposed to instill on the people around him and in his environment, because if he's not able to impact the environment through his will, then he's going to be very, not respectable, I suppose. And yet, at the same time, if you are unable to impose your will on the surroundings as a man, you don't really get the respect that you might deserve. Maybe you're a great person, but you just can't do it as a leader. You're making unpopular decisions, but not for the greater good. You're just a tyrant. Well, then, yeah, you definitely don't deserve respect then. But for the people that are not necessarily striving to be tyrants, that actually want to make the world a better place, there's going to be a lot of people that may disagree with you. And that is okay, that's fine. But you have to make the right calls and go with your gut. And that is sometimes the most hard thing to do, because you might be unprofessional, you might be unpredictable, or at least considered these things to certain people. And you as the leader have to take the responsibility for whatever the outcome is. And you have to be willing to take risks. But here's the thing that I've learned is that the people that take the biggest risks in life often, number one, have the biggest cojones. And number two, whether you're male or female, because women, even though they don't have cojones necessarily, they definitely can get the job done when it needs to happen. I've met entrepreneurs that are women that are highly capable and very, not necessarily, they're assertive, but they're not necessarily masculine. And I've met women in general that are assertive, but not necessarily masculine. They know how to set boundaries and know how to not let anybody take advantage of them, but they're also fairly in tune with their femininity, and that's a beautiful thing to see. And so women can do this as well, but make no mistake, whether you're a male or female, if people fear you, they might begin to plot on you. And especially people might fear you when you are able to walk away from situations. I remember this one woman that I was 25 at the time, and I've talked about her a few times on this channel before, but because I always have new people coming in to this channel, sometimes I don't like telling the same stories over and over again because I have more stories. But if I tell some stories and not the other stories, people are going to be maybe confused about my actual viewpoints. I'm a very nuanced person, and I wouldn't necessarily say that I strive to be complex, but it's become aware to me, and it's become ever more clear to me that even though I'm highly relatable to so many people, I'm also very complex. And a lot of people maybe don't understand me because they don't necessarily see a congruence, but there's always a consistency. There's always a consistency, but it's not always congruent to a certain thing except for following Christ. That's what I'm always striving to do. And it may seem like there's this sense of unpredictability, but it's also the case that, because even in my physical community, people don't always really know what I'm up to. And I actually like to keep it that way because I like to be, I like to have a little bit of privacy. I like to have a little bit of understanding that my world that I have right here, right now, is nobody else's except for me and God's. And there's going to be things that only God will know about me until the day that I die. And it's not that I'm unwilling, like, it's not like it's anything dark necessarily. It's just there have been beautiful, blissful moments that I can only be with God for those moments. I can only explain those kinds of things to God, really. And God is the only one that understands some of these experiences that I've had. And that's fine. That's okay. I'm not like, not upset about that. I'm not necessarily trying to be something that I'm not. But it's just something that I don't know if people would be able to relate to. So why talk about? Plus, it's a very sacred experience. Some of these things, it's very sacred. So it's almost like it would be an insult to God to talk about some of these things. And just the fact that you might want to have a bit of privacy in your life, you want to have a private life. Some people might take that to be, oh, you got something to hide? Oh, and then they might fear that. But because you want to remain and have a sense of mystery to yourself, and it's not because like you're striving to be mysterious, it's just because you want to be able to have your own life. You don't need to air out your dirty laundry to everybody, and you don't need to be this rambunctious person all the time. You don't even want to be rambunctious. You might not even be rambunctious, but because you can't be tamed or controlled by people, they want to, like, because so many people want to put you in a box. And I understand that. I understand that people think, you know, oh, this is this type of person. Generally, there's these characteristics. But as soon as people don't know how to put you in that box, as soon as you deviate a little bit from that box, people think differently about you. And that's okay. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. I don't expect to agree with everybody else. But I think what's important is to capitalize on what you do agree with other people, and to strive ever closer for those kinds of positive changes to take place. And really just harness your strengths, maximize the payout for your strengths, and minimize the costs for your weaknesses. And of course, I'm not perfect, but because I'm not necessarily I suppose in one sense, I am a man of unpredictability. I would consider myself a free spirit that doesn't really care to be labeled. My label is unpredictability. there we go. We'll just say it like that. I don't necessarily believe in boxes for people. People are very complex beings. I've met with over 250 people in one-on-one consultations. And then between the Regal Change Academy for the Discord, as well as the paid community, the free Discord and the paid community, probably 600 people I've seen within the last year. We have 150 or so people in the paid community. And right now we have about 200 active members in the Discord. But I've seen people come and go in the Discord specifically, and in the paid community as well, but more so in the free Discord. And I've yet to meet anybody that is someone I can place into a box. And even me myself, I have to make sure that I'm not trying to unconsciously place people in boxes, because I know how much I don't like to be placed in a box. But if the person cannot place you in a box, they might fear you. And this is where the plotting comes into play. This is where you've got to be careful, because once people fear you and they begin to plot on you, that's where things can go awry. That's where people might think you're just an agent of chaos and that you're something that needs to be dealt with. Now, look at what happened with Jesus Christ. That man performed miracles. He did everything right. He was a man of purity. He was sinless, etc. And yet they still killed him. They still did that. Why? Well, it's because they couldn't control him. They couldn't understand him. They couldn't figure out who he really was, and if he says he really was who he is, well, then what exactly does that mean for them? And that story is just so powerful to me, because I think there's a reason why we can all gravitate toward not just the reality of Jesus, but also the story of Jesus. And because I think the story in some ways itself is more profound than the actual reality of it. Because the story is the narrative, let's say. The narrative is what ultimately contrives and brings in this torrent of understanding and relatability to existentialist thought and the proclivity that people have to want to live a better life no matter what happens. Because I think deep down everybody wants to live a better life, but not everybody wants to see what it will take to live that better life. And I'm among those people as well. Like, there are some things that, of course, I don't want to be doing this. Like, I take cold showers every day. I freaking hate cold showers. I run pretty much every day. If I'm not running, I'm usually at least doing an incline on the treadmill or something. And I hate running. I don't really like lifting weights. But you know what I do like? I really love playing basketball. I love playing racquetball. I love tennis. I love playing sports. I like calisthenics. I like this awesome, fun stuff to do. I don't really care for the basics. Like, I've always disliked the basics. Even when I was doing martial arts more thoroughly, I practice on the bag every now and again now, but and relatively consistently, but it's not necessarily what I used to do with sparring and actual fighting and such all the time, even though, it's still, anyway, the point is even when I was learning the basics, for some reason, the harder stuff always came more natural to me than the basics. Whereas for some other people, the basics come more natural to them. Well, so what exactly does this have to do with people fearing you? Well, if let's say this, right? You might not be able to get the basics, but once you do get the basics after a duration of time, gets to the harder stuff, the hard stuff comes easy to you. But the person next to you, well, the basics were, they completely understood the basics, they flew through the basics, but now, because now this person was here with the basics and such, you were down here, and it took you a longer duration to get to where this person's at, even though you guys are both growing. This other person over here, you might, in this case, if you're this kind of person, you get to here, and now all of a sudden, when you both have the basics down and it's time for learning the harder stuff, well, now you just excel, and this person doesn't quite move as much. They're going to fear you, and they're not going to like you very much. That happened to me in martial arts, and people will begin plotting on you. They will absolutely try to cast spells your way if there are witches or anything like that. And the best way to deter these witch casting spells is to ensure that you are grounded in faith in God, and you trust that faith alone will save you from these things. But make no mistake, the more that you have faith, and the more you just put your faith in God, the more you're going to be tested sometimes. And these people, the ones that plot on you, they're not really godly people, and they might even pose as godly people. I've met people at churches and such, years ago, for example. These people were on the outside great Christians and all that, but they were practicing perversions and sleeping with other women and men, and it's just like, y'all are supposed to be married and this is happening. This is not okay. And so I learned really quickly how to get out of that, because people will say one thing and they'll do anything to get their image intact, but that's it. And that's something really wise. I was talking to a barber earlier today. Barber was working on my beard, and the barber said that this person's her dad was somebody that told her to never trust appearances. And I think that's very wise advice, because a lot of people can seem one way but look another. But make no mistake, physiognomy does not lie. The person's structure is carved by God himself. And so it may be that they look great on the outside, but if you look in their eyes and you have proper discernment, there's no way you're going to be fooled. There's just no way. And some people I will always be skeptical of. Certain leaders that are in power right now, I'm going to be pretty much skeptical. Even though they might be doing a lot of things, I'm going to be very cautious, and I'm going to be skeptical of how things are viewed and what things are like. But that is what it is, and you just got to move forward. But I'm not going to plot on anybody. The only plot that I have on my life is my setbacks. The only thing I'm waging war on or plotting on are my setbacks. That's it. I'm going full force. We're going to show 2025 who's boss, and we're going to stick it to the devil. That's the way that I see it. That's the way that I'm going to live my life. So with all that being said, I do hope this message was useful and insightful for you, gave you something to think about. And if you do want to join the Regal Change Academy, we do have that free Discord as well as the paid community. We are having a Seek retreat on February 8th, just a week and a half away. And that is going to be a all-day virtual meditation retreat from dawn to dusk, or dusk to dawn, whichever is morning to night. I don't know why. It's late. It's really late that I'm filming this. I don't usually film this late. But I've been so busy today. I've been so busy. And man, it's been a beautiful, blessed day, but man, it's been a busy day. And so the virtual meditation retreat, we're going to be going from the early morning to early night. We're going to have guided meditation sessions throughout the day. And if you do want to sign up for that, you don't have to be in the Regal Change Academy, but if you are in the Regal Change Academy, you're going to get a discount on that. Whether you're in the free community or in the paid community. So be sure to check that out, or just email me at regalchange@gmail.com if you're interested. For the Discord community, we do have some fitness regimens. We also have, I just put out an ebook exclusively for the Regal Change Academy. So if you want to check out that ebook, it'll be you can check it out in the free Discord, but it's also going to be in the paid community as well. In the paid community, we also have meditation workshops, narcissistic healing workshops, entrepreneurship, AI optimization. We're doing the Art of War class series right now. There's something for everybody there. In addition to all of those memberships, we also have 2 weekly Bible study calls per week, as well as a Regal Assembly call where we talk about a variety of different topics and subjects. So with all that being said, I do appreciate everybody tuning in, listening, and just being around. I really enjoy these messages and talking with you guys and seeing what you guys have to say. I do appreciate all the people that are supporting me and supporting the channel and just the Regal Change brand in general, because this is a brand. And this is something that I know for a fact we're going to revolutionize psychology and spirituality, and you're either along for the ride or you're not. And we're going to the promised land, baby. That's where I see this going. And I appreciate everybody moving from YouTube over to X, Rumble, and Instagram. And peace be with you all. Till next time.